Hello students, welcome to Edipedia Word Videos. My name is Niyati Said and my topic for the presentation is second section of the chapter Transport and Plants. In this section of the video, we will discuss about the pathway of water movement in roots. Okay, so the process by which water and minerals translocate from base to apex of a plant is known as ascent of sap. Now, what is sap? Sap, you can say that it is water plus mineral. Okay, so sap is water plus mineral, and the process by which water and mineral translocate from base to apex of the plant is known as ascent of sap. Okay, it takes place through complex tissue xylem. Xylem is a conducting tissue from where water and mineral is translocated from base, that is roots, to the apex of the plant body. Okay, or to many parts of a plant body, to a very tip of a plant body. Okay, so the process by which water and mineral translocate from base to apex of a plant is known as ascent of sap, and it takes place through complex tissue xylem, and xylem is a conducting tissue. Now let's discuss about the path of ascent of sap. We very well know that capillary water is the only available water which is taken up by the roots or root hairs to be more precise, and then it reaches to the cortex. Cortex is what? It is ground tissue. Okay, and then from cortex it reaches to the biological check post, and that is endodermis. Endodermis is an inner layer of a cell in the cortex of a root and of some stems surrounding vascular bundle. Okay, I have already taught you endodermis, pericycle, cortex, all these in the chapter anatomy of the flowering plant, so you can refer to that for better understanding. But here, for the time being, just know the path of a ascent of sap. We very well know that capillary water is the only available water which is taken up by the root hair, and then it reaches to the cortex, which is a ground tissue, and then it reaches to the biological check post, which is called as endodermis. Endodermis is what? It is an inner layer of a cells in the cortex of a root and of some stem that surrounds a vascular bundle. Okay, then it reaches to the pericycle. Now pericycle is what? Pericycle, students, it is a thin layer of a plant tissue between the endodermis and a phloem. Phloem is what? Phloem is a conducting tissue just like xylem, but that translocates food material from leaf to the very part of a plant body. Okay, so from endodermis it reaches to the pericycle. I'm talking about the ascent of sap. Okay, that means it water and mineral that translocate from base to the apex of a plant, and that is called as, that process is called as ascent of sap. Now, so here we will discuss about the path of an ascent of sap. So from cortex to endodermis, endodermis to pericycle, and from pericycle to the root xylem. That means, see students, we know that xylem is present in roots also, in stem also, and in roots also. So from pericycle, sap will go to the root xylem, and from root xylem to the stem xylem, and from stem xylem to leaf, and then it finally transpires out. Transpiration is a process by which water loss is taken from the leaf. Okay, so this is the typical path of a ascent of sap representation. Okay, see students, we know that root absorb most of the water that goes into the plant. Obviously, that is why we apply water to the soil and not to the leaf, right? And the responsibility of absorption of water and mineral is more specifically the function of the root hair that are present in millions at the tip of roots, right? And root hairs, they are very thin wall, slender extensions of the root epidermis that greatly increases the surface area for absorption. Now water is absorbed along with the mineral solute by root hairs purely by diffusion process. Okay, once water is absorbed by the root hair, it can move deeper into root layers by two, or more specifically, three distinct pathways. First is Apoplast Pathway, and second is Symplast Pathway, and third is Transmembrane pathway. Okay, so first we'll discuss about the Apoplast and Symplast pathway, but before that, just know that Munch was the name of a scientist. He coined the term Apoplast and Symplast. Okay, so this lesson goes over three ways substances like water and solutes can be transported from cell to cell in a plant, that is Symplastic pathway, Apoplastic pathway, and transmembrane route. Okay, so first we will talk about the Symplast pathway. Students, Symplast pathway, you can say that it is a first choice we have is to use a ship to sail through what looks like rectangular swimming pool connected by tunnels. So these are the two cells. This is one plant cell and this is second plant cell. Okay, and this is the vacuole, this is another vacuole, this is cytoplasm, and this is the cell wall which is represented by green color, and this is the plasmodesmata which is a connecting link between two plant cells. Okay, and this orange line is representing, see, this is the orange line and it is representing apoplastic pathway that goes through cell wall. See, it is not going inside the cell. Can you see that it is going inside the cell wall? No, it does not interfere with the cell or with the cell cytoplasm, but there's a pathway that interferes with the cytoplasm of a cell, and that is symplastic pathway, and this is represented by this blue color. See, this blue color is going through a cell cytoplasm, so this yellow color is representing cytoplasm. Okay, so symplastic pathway, it goes through cytoplasm, and apoplastic pathway, it goes through cell wall. Okay, so apoplastic pathway is the movement of water that occurs exclusively through the cell wall without crossing any membrane. Okay, and Symplast pathway is the movement of a water that occurs from cell to cell through the plasmodesmata. See, this is plasmodesmata, which is a connecting link between two plant cells. Or you can say that plasmodesmata is see, it is also called as plasmodesma, so don't get confused with it. Okay, and plasmodesma and plasmodesmata, they are narrow membrane lined microscopic channels that span plant cell walls. Basically, they are like tunnels or bridge between the cell that allow for all sort of substances to flow freely between the cells. You can say that it is like how Panama Canal that allows for ship to pass freely from one ocean to another. Okay, now students, please note that using Symplastic pathway, that is it goes through a cytoplasm. So this line, this blue line, is representing Symplastic pathway. So herein movement of water occurs from cell to cell through plasmodesmata. So using Symplastic route, water and solute, it move along the continuous series of cytoplasms from one cell or from one plant cell to the next, just as you can see on screen. This. So solutes are the substances that are dissolved in a solution. So sugar dissolved in water would be a solute, and in plants, solute includes sugar, amino acids, and ions. Okay, so I hope it is clear to you now. Now we'll talk about each of the pathway in detail. So first is Symplast pathway. The term Symplastic pathway was proposed by Presley in year 1949. Okay, when he observed active and passive movement of water in plants. I'll be teaching you about the mechanism of water absorption, that is active and passive absorption, in my next section of the presentation. But for the time being, just know that Presley was a scientist who gave the term Symplastic pathway when he observed active and passive movement of water in plants. Okay, now Symplast is a protoplast present in plants which are interconnected by plasmodesmata. See, this is the plasmodesmata which is connecting the two plant cells. See, this is one plant cell and this is another plant cell, and this is what it is, vacuole of a plant. This is the cytoplasm. Okay, and this is the Symplast pathway, and it is inner part plasma membrane, which plays a vital role in transporting or free movement of water and other low molecular weight solutes such as sugar, amino acids, and other ions in between the cells. Okay. So Symplast is a protoplast which is present in plants which are interconnected by plasmodesmata. Okay. So Symplast is the inner part of a plant which is bounded by plasma membrane. Okay. See, this is this pink color line is representing Apoplast, and this green color line is representing Symplast. So Symplast, it goes through cytoplasm. See, this yellow color is cytoplasm. So Symplast is the inner part of a plant which is bounded by plasma membrane. See, it is bounded by plasma membrane. This is plasma membrane, and this outer one is cell wall. It contains the complete network of a cytoplasm of a plant cell that are connected by plasmodesmata. See, this is plasmodesmata that is connecting link between two plant cells. Symplast is considered as living part of a plant tissue without the presence of cell wall and intercellular spaces in it. Can you see that? Can you predict that it's a living or non-living? Yes, you can, because Symplast is present in the inner part of a plant. That's why it is considered as living part of a plant tissue without the presence of cell wall and intercellular spaces in it. And the pathway created by Symplast is called as Symplastic Pathway. Okay. In this pathway, the water absorbed from soil is first allowed to enter into a cell sap, and then it is allowed to pass from one cell into another cell. Okay. And in Symplastic Pathway, movement of water is in between cytoplasm and vacuole through the plasma membrane and plasmodesmata and beyond the cortex of the root cells. I repeat that in Symplastic Pathway, the movement of water or mineral is in between cytoplasm and vacuole. See, this is cytoplasm and this is vacuole. So the movement of water is in between cytoplasm and vacuole. This is cytoplasm and this is vacuole. So the movement of water is restricted between the cytoplasm and vacuole through plasma membrane and plasmodesmata. See, then it is going through the plasmodesmata and beyond the cortex of a plant cell. So this is another cell wherein movement of water from here, it reaches to here. Okay, I hope it is clear to you now. So the pathway is little slower when compared to apoplastic pathway. I repeat, symplastic pathway, it is little slower than compared to the apoplastic pathway. In this symplastic pathway, water moves from one cell to another cell by osmosis. Okay, I repeat, it moves from one cell to another by osmosis. As the water enters into one cell, this cell has a higher water potential than compared to the adjacent cell. Okay. So in symplastic pathway, water moves from one cell to another cell by the process known as osmosis. Okay. This is cortex part, which is the ground tissue part. This is endodermis, and this area is pericycle. This is xylem vessel, from where movement of water and mineral takes place, and this is the apoplastic pathway, which is represented by this yellow line, and this is symplastic pathway, which is shown by this blue line. Okay, and then it reaches to the xylem vessel, or to the, you can say it reaches to the cortex or endodermis part of another plant cell. Okay, now we'll talk about the apoplast pathway. As we know that the symplast is held together by a structural framework, and that is called as apoplast pathway. That is called as apoplast pathway. So this is one plant cell, this is another plant cell. This is the Casparian strip. Casparian strip, students, it is a wall, you can say, which is made up of, or it has a deposition of suberin in it. Okay, you can say that it is a band of cell wall material deposited in the radial and the transverse wall of endodermis, and is chemically different from the rest of a cell wall, and it is made up of suberin and sometimes lignin. Okay, I hope it is clear to you now. Now we'll talk about the apoplastic pathway. It is a space that lies outside the plasma membrane. See, this is the plasma membrane. This is plasma membrane. And outside membrane is called as a cell wall. See, this is shown here that it is cell wall. And this yellow color is representing cytoplasm. So apoplast is a space that lies outside the plasma membrane that consists of intercellular space along with cell wall. It does not involve protoplasm in the plant tissue, and that's why it is considered as non-living part of a plant. It is unlike Symplast pathway that involves protoplasm, but here apoplast pathway, it does not involve protoplasm in the plant tissue, and therefore it is considered as non-living part of a plant. Whereas Symplastic pathway, it is considered as living part of a plant because it involves protoplasm in the plant tissue. Then apoplast, it makes a major pathway known as apoplastic pathway, which supports water ions to the xylem element from soil through the root. Okay, so the major part of a water is transported apoplastically in the root cortex as cortical cells are packed loosely, and it offers low resistance to the flow of water. Okay, and the apoplastic root is blocked by Casparian strip of endodermal cells. See, this is Casparian strip. Casparian strip is a band of a cell wall material which is deposited in radial and transverse wall of a endodermis and is chemically different from rest of the cell wall, and the cell wall being made of lignin and without suberin, whereas Casparian strip is made up of suberin and sometimes lignin. Okay, so this is it. Hence symplastic root is utilized to deliver water and ion over cortex, and since apoplast is made up of non-living components, the apoplastic root is least affected by the metabolic state of the root. Okay, so as you can see that this is the pathway of the ascent of a sap. This is epidermis, this is cortex, this is endodermis, this is pericycle, and this is xylem, which is a conducting tissue of water and mineral. Okay, and this is the plasmodesmata or plasmodesma that connects, or it acts as a link or that cements two plant cells together. So this green color, it is representing symplastic pathway that goes through cytoplasm, and hence it is called as living part of a plant body. And this is apoplast, which is shown by this purple color. It is non-living part of a plant because it does not involve protoplasm and it goes through cell to cell. Okay, so hence symplastic root is utilized to deliver water and ion over cortex. See, from epidermis it goes to the cortex, from cortex to endodermis, and from endodermis to pericycle. So since apoplast is made up of non-living components, the apoplastic root is least affected by metabolic state of the root. Okay, now we'll talk about the differences between apoplast and symplast. See, these 5 are the criteria on which we can differentiate apoplast and symplast from each other. So first is a part that consists of intercellular spaces and cell wall. I'm talking about the apoplast. Now symplast, it is mainly consists of protoplasm. That's why it is considered as living part of a plant body. Then on the basis of living and non-living part, apoplast consists of non-living part. Okay, because it goes through cell to cell. And unlike apoplast, symplast, it is consist of living part because it involves protoplasm in it. Then on the basis of rate of pathway criteria, apoplastic pathway is faster, whereas symplastic pathway, it is slower than apoplastic pathway. Then on the basis of metabolic state, no effect on water movement is there, whereas in symplast metabolic state, it interferes the flow of water in symplastic pathway. And on the basis of transportation criteria, more iron and water are transported through apoplastic pathway in the cortex, and in symplast, water and ions are mainly delivered through symplastic pathway beyond cortex. Okay, now we'll talk about the third pathway, and that is transmembrane pathway, students. Okay, so water after passing through cortex is blocked by Casparian strip. Casparin strip, I just taught you that it's a wall which has a deposition of suberin and lignin. So water after passing through cortex, it is blocked by Casparin strip, which is present on the endodermis. So the Casparin strip are formed due to deposition of wax-like substance called suberin or lignin. In this pathway, water crosses at least two membranes from each cell in its path. See, this is vacuolar pathway. Vacuolar pathway is also called as transmembrane pathway, so don't get confused with it. So this is represented by this sign. See, from here it reaches to here, from here to here, and from here to here, and finally it goes out. So in this pathway, water crosses at least two membranes from each cell in its path, and these two plasma membrane, they are found in entering and exiting of water. Here, water may also enter through tonoplast surrounding the vacuole. See, this is vacuole of a plant cell. So and the membrane of a vacuole is called as tonoplast. So water may also enter through tonoplast surrounding the vacuole, and that's why it is also called as vacuolar pathway. Okay. See, transmembrane route via water channel. See, from here it reaches to here, here, and then finally it goes to the xylem vessel. Okay. So this was all about the three pathways of water absorption. In my next section of the presentation, we'll be discussing about the mechanism of water absorption, such as active and passive absorption, and theories related with ascent of sap. So till then, stay tuned and keep watching Edipedia word videos. Thank you.